Welcome to today's Explainer. Today we are diving headfirst into an unbelievably messy, anonymous internet confession. We're looking at this totally crazy situation directly from a young man's perspective, basically tracking how crossing one massive boundary completely turned his world upside down. So today's Explainer is called A Forbidden Confession, the sister's best friend. We're going to break down the anatomy of this forbidden romance, the mechanics of the lies, and guys, there is a final twist in here that is literally going to leave your stomach in knots. The guy actually opens his confession with this super heavy realization. He says, some mistakes stick with you as lifelong guilt, right? Like, we all know there are those missteps that feel, well, insanely intoxicating in the heat of the moment, just pure adrenaline. But then later on, they just kind of anchor themselves to you as this permanent, crushing regret. So we really need to look at this whole story through his lens of hindsight. He's definitely not out here bragging about some wild conquest. He's dissecting a massive personal failure. It kind of sets this perfect tone, balancing the spicy, rebellious excitement of his youth with this incredibly heavy guilt he's dealing with today.
Okay, so Section 1, the innocent childhood crush. This is really where the whole mess began.
To really get how crazy this gets, we gotta establish the baseline. We're talking about Neha. She was his older sister's absolute best friend, basically family, right? She was at his house every single weekend for family dinners, hanging out watching movies, the whole shebang. And throughout his childhood and teen years, he harbored this totally silent, completely harmless crush on her. But, there was a 3-year age gap, so to her, he was literally just the annoying little brother. But then, the catalyst happens. Boom. He turns 22. He's a consenting adult now, he's been hitting the gym, he's matured, his looks have totally changed, and this time skip, it fundamentally shatters the old dynamic. Because suddenly, he is absolutely not the little kid she used to know.
Section 2, the dynamic suddenly shifts. Because he's definitely not a kid anymore.
So after some time away, Neha comes back over to the house, but man, everything just feels different. From his perspective, it's like that familiar, safe family boundary has just vanished into thin air. It's replaced by, lingering eye contact, maybe some playful touching here and there. And it all culminates at this late-night house party. His sister ends up passing out early, leaving just him and Neha completely alone out on the balcony. They're talking deep about relationships, about being lonely, and then out of nowhere, Neha just casually drops this one loaded sentence. She looks at him and says, "You've changed a lot." I mean, wow. That single line instantly hotwired his brain. For him, it was the ultimate green light. Taking this dormant childhood crush and instantly igniting it into real, undeniable adult desire. From there, the escalation was honestly incredibly systematic. It started off super subtle, just sending Instagram memes back and forth to kind of test the waters. But then that quickly morphed into secretive, late-night texting, and before he knew it, they were just straight up undeniably flirting. In his head, he was really wrestling with the weirdness of it all. Like, technically, sure, they're both single adults, but morally, come on, it's his sister's best friend. That is a massive taboo. But the crazy thing is, as their connection deepened, it was almost like that exact taboo was the fuel for the addiction. Moving on to Section 3, crossing the forbidden line. This is truly the point of no return. Picture this. One night, his sister is out of the house. It's just him and Neha, totally alone. The lights are dim, they're watching a movie, their shoulders brush. You know that heavy, thick silence that fills the room? Yeah, that. And then she suddenly grabs his hand. He said his mind went completely blank. In that exact second, all that casual digital banter became terrifyingly real and physical. They shared their first kiss right then and there. And he explicitly points out that in that moment, he actually felt way more fear than excitement. He knew instantly that if his sister ever found out, it would literally ruin his life. But that terrifying thrill, it just completely hijacked his logic. So this becomes his completely chaotic new reality. We're talking secret late-night drives, sneaking into hidden hotel rooms, and just constantly fabricating all these elaborate fake excuses for his family. And, the most dangerous part of a forbidden relationship is actually the adrenaline itself. Every single secret meetup felt electric. Every hushed, quiet conversation was thrilling. He was so completely swept away by the high of the deception that he genuinely truly started to believe he was falling deeply in love with her. But Section 4, the illusion slowly shatters. Get ready for the psychological mess. Because right while he's busy falling head over heels, her behavior starts getting wildly inconsistent.
One day, she's playing the perfect romantic, literally mapping out these grand, beautiful future plans with him. But then, literally the very next day, she'd be freezing cold, totally distant, and just straight up ghosting his messages. Psychologically speaking, this push and pull dynamic is called intermittent reinforcement, and let me tell you, it is dangerously addictive. It just left his brain constantly scrambling, completely desperate to figure out what he'd done wrong, basically trapping him in this perpetual state of severe anxiety. Then comes the completely devastating turning point. He accidentally sees her phone. Now, up until this moment, he thought what they had was incredibly unique. He cherished all those sweet "I miss you" texts, the special, secret thrill they shared. But the reality, it was an absolute nightmare. He looked at her screen and realized she was chatting with multiple other guys using the exact same copy-paste flirting techniques, the exact same emotional lines. Systematically, his entire worldview just shattered. His special, one-of-a-kind romance was really just her calculated, repeating pattern. So obviously, he finally confronts her about what he saw, and she just delivers this absolute crushing blow. She looks at him and says, "I never thought you'd get this attached." Ouch. She basically openly admits that she was just addicted to the attention. She loved the validation of having this younger guy totally obsess over her. So while he was putting his entire heart on the line, risking his relationship with his family to Neha, he was nothing more than an exciting little distraction, an ego boost. Realizing he had been used that deeply, it just completely broke him. Which brings us to Section 5, the devastating sister twist, the silent betrayal. Okay, so up until now, this just sounds like a pretty standard, albeit toxic romance story, right? But the most shocking reveal of this entire confession is actually what was happening in the background of his own home. You guys, his sister knew everything from the very beginning. She had accidentally seen their chat messages on a phone screen incredibly early on in the affair, but instead of confronting them or protecting her little brother or, I don't know, screaming at her best friend, she stayed completely silent. And why? Because she wanted to sit back and watch exactly how low her own brother would stoop. She used his downward spiral as her own sick, twisted entertainment. When he finally found out that his own flesh and blood literally watched him walk blindfolded into a trap and did absolutely nothing to pull him back, he had this deeply visceral reaction. He wrote, "That day I felt disgusted with myself for the first time." Because suddenly it wasn't just the heartbreak from Neha anymore. It was this profound, sickening realization that he had completely compromised his own morals for absolutely nothing. The whole situation just culminated in this incredibly heavy, lingering disgust for himself. Section 6, the heavy, lingering guilt, the devastating aftermath. Fast forward to today, and all that adrenaline is long, long gone. Neha is completely out of his life, his sister is permanently distant, and he's just left standing in the wreckage, entirely alone. The core lesson he took away from this whole nightmare is the absolute danger of becoming what he calls temporary entertainment, basically being nothing more than a distraction in someone else's game. As he points out, realizing you were used just for someone's amusement causes a type of psychological damage that is infinitely worse than a normal breakup. It really messes with your head. So to wrap up today's explainer, I really want to leave you with a final thought based on his incredibly traumatic experience. Is getting involved with your sister's best friend always morally wrong? Or can love really happen anywhere? I mean, he crossed a forbidden boundary for what he genuinely thought was love, and it ended up costing him his peace, his self-respect, and his family. But was this situation doomed purely because of the taboo of who she was? Or was it only toxic because of Neha's wildly manipulative personality? Take a second to consider the boundaries of forbidden relationships in your own life. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this confession today.